If 1,000 miles of overlanding in remote areas sounds like your idea of fun, this series, whether you're loving adventure, the great outdoors, or want to learn the details of how to plan an amazing trip of a lifetime like this for yourself, hit the subscribe button so you won't miss out on any of the fun. Arizona Peace Trail has been a dream trip of mine, and I'm lucky enough to have amazing friends to pull it off. Come on for a ride with us. Welcome to the Arizona Peace Trail video series. This is going to be a 5-part series, starting off each showing the map section for the day that was covered. This will give you nice snippets of the terrain layout, what the trails are like, and this video will be packed with useful information for those debating or planning a trip like this. Every adventure has a start and an end. This is a trip you should plan both. If I'm being honest, my group nickname more so than Send It is Mr. Itinerary. This trip even more so because of the amount of planning involved. I pitched the idea of the Arizona Peace Trail. They just asked what date, where are we meeting, and what do they need to bring. So I started my months of preparing and planning. In my planning, I read everything I could on the internet, Facebook pages, Arizona Peace Trail Atlas, and watched everything I could find on YouTube. But in the end, I never found a complete video or series that showed all the different types of terrain to be expected, or a guide that really gives a grip on what this trail encompasses, along with good food for thought for somebody wanting to do a trip like this. This isn't really much of a Send It video, more of a enjoy the terrain, learn as we go. Each video is broke down into a day's worth of riding to make the complete loop. Information about planning, from maps to what to bring and what to expect, will be throughout the videos. I work a full-time job and make videos in my spare time, so videos will be spaced apart, which is perfect. Because if anyone has any questions, drop it in the comments. I'll answer if I can, and include that info in the next video. If one person asks it, I'm sure more people want to know that same answer. Also, if you have any cool knowledge tokens that should be added, drop them in the comments so I can add it in a future video. So a common question I get asked is, what is the Arizona Peace Trail? It's a fairly new trail system. A lot of people haven't heard about it. It's a 675 plus mile off-road loop / trail system on western Arizona. Some people come out and ride certain sections. Many sections have connecting trails and areas to explore off of the main trail. My first trip off-road into Arizona, we hopped around and rode different sections versus doing the full loop. This trip, we did the whole loop with a lot of detours. More on that to come. The 4 outer corners are Kingsman, Dateman, Yuma, and Bull City to make that big loop. It covers a large and small towns, cactus, red rocks, sand washes, canyons, mountains, and varying altitudes. It's open to dirt bikes, dual sports, ATVs, UTVs, OHVs, and modified rigs all alike. Being street legal is definitely a plus. Trying to do the full loop legally without having to worry about getting fuel or towing logistics in some sections, street legal is definitely a plus. This is a fairly new trail system starting in 2011. Many volunteers and groups worked together to make this dream into a reality. They worked with many counties, BLM, government, and private agencies. The saying, one bad apple can spoil the bunch, is true in the off-road community. Don't be a bad apple and spoil it for everyone else. Don't litter, stay on trails, don't go where you're not supposed to, be respectful around residential areas, know what land you're on, and what rules apply from camping to campfires. I love being full throttle and having fun, but do that in the wide open sand washes, not through residential neighborhoods. As you've seen earlier in the video, if we were going slower than traffic, we would get over and let cars pass. Being respectful will ensure we have this awesome place to ride in the future. I highly encourage you to purchase the Arizona Peace Trail Atlas. It is the single best source of information I could find. In fact, we did the trip off the original Atlas from 2018. When we got back, I started working on this video and seen a new Atlas was about to be released, so I stopped, waited for it, read the whole thing just to make sure I wasn't missing anything huge before releasing these videos. Of course, the most up-to-date is always nice, but the old Atlas got us through it and wouldn't be scared to return it with that last Atlas. The Atlas held up to 1,000 miles in the side-by-side. If I was planning this trip fresh and someone gave me the OG Atlas or got it out of steel at a bookstore, I'd go with it as a physical copy and maybe Kindle the newer edition. The Atlas covers trail ratings, know before you go info, a suggested itinerary, bypasses, alternate routes, points of interest like gas locations. It's nicely broken into sections, so when you get to looking at that area, you can find gas stations, hotels, or supplies needed along the way. That way you can kind of plan your stops out as you're going and hitting these different cities and know what's available. The hardest part of an adventure is getting to the starting point. The Arizona Peace Trail is a loop, so in theory you can start at any spot if you had someone drop you off and pick you back up. That could work. Logistically, chances are you're going to have to leave a truck and trailer or some type of rig somewhere, unless you're a cool dual sport guy, or you have an OHV and drive your machine directly to the trail. My suggestion is picking an area or city that is the closest location and make that your first research point. I picked Kingsman because it was the closest for a drive for them. My drive was towing 1 day, 7 hours, and around 2,200 miles. I could have hit anything on the western side of Arizona in about the same time frame across the country. Google, using the Atlas, Facebook, Arizona Peace Trail group can all be your friends. Also, something to consider is how secure do you want that setup to be. So I've seen stories, not that they're super common, but somebody does the trail, comes back, and their truck's rims and tires are stolen, or the vehicle's broken into. So research the location and use your judgment for your risk assessment. Courtside, for instance, has an OHV staging area that's currently free. Some hotel rooms may let you leave your stuff if you're staying a night or two with them. In my case, I had an ATV and Kirkland's dirt bikes that was going to be left on an open trailer for the Arizona Peace Trail, but used on the next trip. I definitely didn't want to risk theft, so a secure location was a must for me. Search some type of storage facility like RV, boat, or paid parking. The question of where to park or find secure parking gets often asked on the Facebook group and is a great spot to get ideas. I ended up using Kingsman Marina and can't recommend them enough. Reasonable pricing, locked fence section, and was even nice enough to accommodate my time frame from that long drive. It's also a pretty good location to do a final gear shakedown. I realized that the tent I had packed first was in an identical box that was over 2,000 miles away, not in the back of my truck. Also, a few other people realized they were missing something or last minute thought of something they'd like to have that would be nice. Luckily, a quick Walmart run had everyone squared away. Of course, a trip like this, you're going to want to plan a time frame and dates. The best time is in the fall, winter, and spring. Most people go in the months of October to April. Current planned closures are the first week of January and February. That's the Blase to Midway section. Planet Ranch section or river cross sections can be impassable due to high water conditions. Typically that's late winter, early spring. We went in May just because of work time frames. Luckily for us, the weather was slightly cooler than normal for that time frame, but a rare river flooding blocked the river crossing near Alamo Lake. That made for long detours and more miles. I wouldn't be too worried about that river crossing being impassable. The last time it was that bad was about 30 years ago, so not super common. Snow also makes certain sections of the trail impassable in the winter, especially higher elevations near 7,000 feet like the Guadalupe Mountains. Check ArizonaPeaceTrail.org or Facebook forums for current closures and conditions. On the flip side of winter, summer can be brutal to take this trip, and I wouldn't recommend it. I've rode sections in early June, and it was already 100 plus degrees. Lower sections of Arizona can easily get past 110 degrees in June, July, and August. Yuma's population, for instance, almost doubles in the winter from people called snowbirds, enjoying a warm winter, but as soon as summer approaches, they disappear. In addition, a lot of businesses close during this time frame, limited potential resources, and stops along the way. Also, June and August bring the annual monsoon thunderstorms, which can have dangerous cloud-to-ground lightning strikes, and the rain could cause flash floods in the washes with little to no warning. Before deciding, look up the average temperatures in the different sections of the maps, highs and lows, and decide if it's likely to be a good fit for your group's preferences. I love taking breaks where there's a cool view, backdrop, something interesting to check out along the way, and that's where I use the atlas to try to find these spots. It's hard to plan everything perfectly, but it's nice when a plan comes together.
All tactics on your right hand side are actually colorful.
I think
The snack, do you remember?
I don't know.
Dad, I think up here is a good spot.
Oh, I see.
Now, the rest of this block.
so. Quick intro into the group and the machines. The one rocking the GoPro right now and got the most footage for this trip is Dezrik and Megan with their kids in a fairly new to them Honda Pioneer 1000 6-seater at the time. This is pre-portals and 32, so we got to see what this machine was capable of 100% stock. Jason and Kirkland are in the stock KRX with 35. He was my contingency plan. If I ran across something I couldn't climb or do, I was going to send him and make him my winch point. KRX is definitely heavy enough for that. Me and my buddy Gus are in my Honda Pioneer 1000 stock with 814s. Everyone was carrying stuff. Mine was the main pack mule. I have a separate video of my setup and how I managed to carry as much stuff as I did. That video and any Arizona Peace Trail videos I'll put in a playlist of its own, so it's easy to find. That video was impressive to see how much I could carry and should give anyone some packing ideas on how to carry some stuff and ideas on stuff to carry on a trip like this. As you can tell by the video, I ended up with a lot of extra stuff at the end. If I would have been a little lighter and some weight a little bit lower in the machine, which is what I would do if I was redoing this trip tomorrow, and it would have probably made a world of a difference. Pioneer did everything I needed it to, but if it was lighter, it wouldn't have been as tippy. And banks that I would normally ride up on, I had to watch out for that heavy rear of the machine sliding and then pulling the rest of the machine with it. Later, this made for a broken brake line even more of a challenge when I only had 3 wheels I could apply the brakes on. Just about any side-by-side, dirt bike, dual sport, ATV, or capable OHV with a good clearance and capable four-wheel drive can do this with a capable driver. Over the videos, you will see all the different types of terrain. I'm going to leave out long gravel, easy drive type stuff unless it has an awesome backdrop or something. Most UTVs and side-by-sides will be fine. Some sections, 50-inch models, may be tippy, especially if packed out heavy. Line choice and a strap with help may be your friend in those scenarios. The more challenging section is the good, bad, and ugly. There's a few different YouTube videos that should give a good grasp if you want to do that section or not. Narrow can be tippy, and wider OHV vehicles may find certain sections very narrow or tight with shrubs to the point that scratches and scuffs are going to happen. There is 2 different ways for overnight. One is hotels or some type of Airbnb, or camping on the trails. Some people will have itineraries and a planned reservation each night. This works out great if everything goes to plan and is the easiest and lightest to pack for. Some people go hybrid and pack the essentials for tent camping in case they get to an area that doesn't have a vacancy. This gives flexibility in an itinerary, and this is also a nice contingency plan if you have a trail recovery or breakdown and you're waiting for help to arrive, or if part of the group leaves to get a part or a tool. Certain sections are so vast you might have to stay on the trail overnight, depending on what or where it happens. Third is tent camping, which is what we did and enjoyed it. It provided the most flexibility but requires the most weight and planning about packing. You do have to be mindful of where you can and can't camp. There is campgrounds, private, BLM, state land trusts, state land parks, military, federal, USFWS, and other land the trail system goes through, and each has different rules about it. BLM or public land is free to camp on. Campgrounds are also listed in the atlas. Third is state land trusts, and I'll mention more about the permits here in a minute. Things to consider camping other than gear: possible resupply stops for food and water, stops for showers and laundry as needed. I picked Yuma for one of the main points since there was a truck stop for showers and laundry. Lastly, you need to know what land you are on to know if you can or can't camp, for instance. The atlas lays out nicely if you're good with coordinates and using a map. There is multiple apps that will show you land layouts, and especially BLM land, like camping apps. My personal favorite for land is Paid For Onyx Off-Road with pre-downloaded sections, so you can know what type of land you're on even offline, but more about mapping and navigation to come. Now that is one thing I miss about the Pioneer going to the KRX, is being able to just cruise along and have a conversation with somebody without yelling and screaming at each other. This is the Boriana Mines. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but I'll show you a few cool little pictures here. I'm not going to show a picture of everything that we stopped to see. There's a ton of stuff on this trail, but just want to show you enough to hopefully pique some interest in a venture for this trip. All residents and non-residents off-highway vehicles, or OHVs, designed by the manufacturer primary for use over unimproved terrain and that weigh 2,500 pounds or less, are required by law to display a valid OHV decal to operate on public and state trust lands in Arizona, and currently cost $25 for 1 year from the date of purchase. If you are close to the trip and didn't get the sticker in time, bring a printout of proof. I've been checked like that before and never had an issue. You're allowed to drive through state trust land, but you cannot stop or camp without the state trust land permit also. Some sections are long going through the state trust land. Of course, you're going to want to stop at some point. And some of the stuff that you're going to want to stop and see is on state trust land. Currently, you can get an individual permit for $15, good for 1 year from date of purchase. Family permits are for 2 adults, cost $20, covers those 2 adults and their children that are under the age of 18. A small group permit is $15 and covers up to 19 people for 5 consecutive days. Since we had less than 19 people and was only going to be there for 5 days, this made the most sense and saved the most money for us. Gate etiquette is something important to know before you go. Probably most West Coast people are familiar with this, but not common on the East Coast. It's common for ranchers to have land or permission to graze cattle in certain land sections. A closed gate is to keep cattle in a certain sections. Other times they will open a gate to allow them to graze a different section or go to a water source. Simply enough, leave the gate how you found it. If you come up on a closed gate, you are free to open it, drive through, but close it back. On the flip side, if you come across an open gate, drive through it and keep going. Leave it as you found it. This next section going up to Wikieup is going to be narrow, steep, and rough with climbs up to about 6,000 feet. I would say this is one of the narrowest, tippy, and likely sections to get some trail rash on a nice paint job on the Arizona Peace Trail, along with the good, bad, and ugly. There is an alternate section if you're not sure about the challenging terrain, or if you're in a nice vehicle that you just don't want to get nicked up. Depending on your fuel range, for most, Wikieup is going to be a must detour stop for fuel. I'll go over some list of things to carry along with some emergency items that's common, but there is one thing in particular that's not common on suggested lists that I would highly encourage you to ponder. Unfortunately, some life lessons are painful. This one could have been worse and was definitely an eye-opener for me. On a previous Arizona trip, a good buddy of mine flipped an ATV and got hurt. Bleeding and potential for head trauma, time is of the essence with potential injuries like this. We was probably 45 to 50 miles from touching pavement, and an area life flight wouldn't have been able to land or land easily. Somehow my phone was the only one in the group that managed to connect to 911. It was a poor connection with a lot of in and out repeating on both ends. I was panicked that the call would drop and we wouldn't have an ambulance meeting us at the closest pickup point. For about 25 to 30 mile section of very iffy phone call signal, I had others trying to call in case mine went out or someone else got a better connection. No one else connected before we got into a section with good signal. We beat the ambulance to the spot by a couple moments. My buddy is okay and recovered after multiple surgeries, but how much of a difference can 40 minutes have made if my call didn't go through in a remote area? A lot of Arizona Peace Trail is very remote. You'll go without any type of signal for a while. If someone has a medical emergency or accident, being able to connect to emergency services could be the difference between life and death. I would recommend some type of satellite-based SOS type device. There are multiple brands of companies for this type of device. They have different features. Many have benefits outside of just being an SOS device, like tracking, mapping, or messaging. I got the Garmin InReach I like because it has independent mapping for hiking, relatively small and good battery life. I do a lot of solo or remote stuff throughout the year, so I keep a monthly plan for $12 that keeps the emergency function and includes 10 text messages a month. Ooh.
Highway now.
I can kind of see the bottom. Keeps going though. I don't think it's bad. Keep on going. Well, I mean, you know somebody walked into that.
We got wrenches. I ain't worried about getting out of it.
No, you can see where they dig into the... If it is a rarity for you to be somewhere remote without signal, there's a few places that do rentals for SOS type devices. Check with your adventurous friends, see if you can borrow one for a week. Even if you bought one for the trip and sold it after, the difference lost would be a good peace of mind in my opinion. Here, Dezrik was exploring and playing around in a sandy section near a creek bed and got stuck. Old KRX with 35s came in to save the day. Kids was having a ball playing around here, and we wasn't far away from my planned camp spot, so we decided to cook dinner and camp here. Hopefully we don't keep getting behind schedule. Remember, this is part 1 of 5. Drop comments or questions for the next video in the series.